Thank you, Veronica. That was always wonderful, as expected. Give it great. I asked Teresa to introduce Ali, but she hasn't responded in the chat. Um, I met Ali during the COVID pandemic, and we were forced to go on Zoom. And I was so thrilled when I started hearing Ali and Teresa, and they were putting together, just these mini seminars with great speakers, and it was just filling up my soul. And every time I hear Ali speak, he's just such a delight. He delivers a message with warmth and understanding and humility, and he's just a great example of someone that's really working the program. So everyone, here's Ali.
Hi everybody, my name is Ali. I'm a grateful alcoholic. Joel, thank you very much for that kind introduction and for your invitation. So just so I know, I have about 50 minutes or so. Is that correct? Something like that? Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm grateful to be invited back.
You have as long as I was muted. You have as long as you want. You can take the whole time, or you could stop. Usually it's about 45 minutes, and then you could pick some people to share, and then other people do a Q&A.
Sounds good. That's what I'll do. Thank you very much. I appreciate being invited back. Thank you, Joel and the group. I tried to sort of get out of it. I did when Joel asked me, but he reminded me that I spoke it more than a year ago. I tried to use that card, but that didn't work. So I'm grateful to be here. I want to first and foremost thank the old timers. I really want all the long timers that are on this call and have had a deep impact on my life and my recovery that may not be here right now. Because I was one of those, I think I wasn't one of those people that got this program right away. I was one of those retreads. I was in and out of the program for 6 to 7 years, actually, dying in the darkness and the depths of despair of this illness, And it was the old timers, the long timers, your light shining through that kept me coming back. It was your kindness and your humility and driving me to detox, to meetings, and buying me groceries and taking it home for me, you know what I mean? You guys practice principles in your affairs long before I knew what the big book and these steps were. You became attractive to me. I think that's so important to practice these principles, to practice the way of life. For a period of time, when I woke up later on in the program, I forgot about all that. I thought it was knowledge of the big book and number responses and speaking engagements. You know what I mean? So I'm so grateful for the long timers. I appreciate you. I really do. Thank you for being here. Thank you for keeping the light on for a broken soul like me, and teaching me that it's okay to be broken, because that's where God shines through, I'm not very good. I guess extra nervous. I always get nervous before speaking, but extra nervous if it's like something like this or a stat or something like that, because I think I don't know anything. I'm not very good at unpacking articles and writings and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see where the spirit takes, right? First, I think it's important for me to talk about just what's on my heart is when I read this article, is my admiration for Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob, but Bill Wilson wrote this, so we're going to talk about Bill Wilson. Okay? I admire this man so much, like the struggles that he had, the pain that he went through, the depression that he had. How he's the only one of the only members of Alcoholics Anonymous that was never able to be a member because we wouldn't let him. Right? We would put him on a pedestal. We as in I wasn't there, but we as a collective, you know what I mean? Like, AAs would put him on a pedestal, right? Only to tear him down. Only to put a magnifying glass on some of his faults and shortcomings that we all have and tear him down. This man just imagine just not ever being able to be anonymous in an anonymous program, And with all the faults and brokenness, the fumbling and stumbling that he had, what inspires me is that despite all of that, all the stories that you hear that I even want to give voice to, who cares, right? Despite all of that, what inspires me, what motivates me is that God took him and all his brokenness and Dr. Bob, grabbed them like two pebbles, just dropped them on the pond of life, And 87 plus years later, literally ripple effects started where waves of the language of love hit all of us. And that's what we're doing here. We're riding the waves of the language of love that was started by two broken souls, you know? So when I get present to that, I guess my nervousness a little bit goes away because it means that that it's okay to be broken. That I don't have to come here and dissect this and sound intelligent for anybody. You know what I mean? That in fact, what makes me useful to others is my brokenness, is the crack in the armor and the gash and the wounds in the psyche and the emotions. Is being molested by those two 15-year-old kids at the age of 7, and my father's addicted beatings and experiencing bombing and racism when I first came into Canada, and the suicide attempt after suicide attempt. Financial insecurity and fear of financial insecurity. That's in the family. Divorces and separations. See, all of that, that's where God shines through. Ain't that beautiful? So I'm going to try my best to share my experience on the themes of this article. Okay, so I took a couple of notes here because I was dissecting the article. I did the same thing last time, right? Just that's the way I had to do it. So it's too difficult for me to read line by line, or just I picked out a couple of themes that I believe this article is about, and what I'm going to do, try my best to pour my experience on it. Okay, just like the big book is like a couple of inches thick, but it becomes thousands of kilometers deep when two of us get together and we pour our experiences on it. That becomes alive, right? So I think spiritual texts and spiritual paths are this way. They have this attribute. Because if all it was is words on a page, this 2-page article, we can get an English lit student to come over here and give a beautiful talk on it. Better than I think anyone in AA, except we would be left empty. We would just leave it empty and hungry, unfulfilled, you know? So I'm going to try my best to pour my experience on the themes of this article. And I wrote the notes on the themes. So one of the themes, there are 3 themes that I see here. One is that what it looks like. Emotional sobriety, what it looks like is humility. That's what it looks like. Bill Wilson says, development of much more real maturity and balance, which is to say humility, he says, in our relationships with ourselves, with our fellows, and with God. And there's one huge impediment to me experiencing the emotional sobriety, in growth in emotional sobriety. And that's the absolute dependence and demand on others and circumstances to perfectly fulfill me. To fulfill me with security, with perfect romance, perfect approval, all the time. Do for me, right? And how to achieve it. So it looks like humility. The impediment is my demand on others and situations to change so I can feel better, fulfill me, right? And how it's achieved is by giving love to others. And what Bill says in this article is, I could not avail myself to God's love until I was able to offer it back to him by loving others as he would have me. And then he says, offering love to others regardless of the return to me. So I think it's something important for me to talk about because I had a misunderstanding what this emotional sobriety, like how do you do it? Yeah, give love to others, but how? I didn't know. I thought before I really woke up in the program, I thought emotional sobriety is some kind of graduate course. Like you got the steps here, and then you got something else you do called emotional sobriety, right? But that's not the case. That's not what I don't. And I think Joel talked about that in the preamble there. What I believe is that emotional sobriety is practicing these 12 steps on a path of progress, not a path of perfection. Like I fell into this sleep, like I was deluded into sometimes. Not a path of looking good and what you think about me. Path of perfection to a deeper level of kindness, humility, and love. Emotional sobriety is these steps as a way of life. And it doesn't mean that I don't explore other paths. Because step 11 directs me, actually suggests to me that be quick to see what other spiritual religious people are right. Make use of what they have to offer. So it could be, and has happened to me, that as a result of walking this path, the Spirit has directed me to other paths to do along with Alcoholics Anonymous, but never instead of the steps, right? So here we go. I landed here broken in every way you can imagine. Suicidal, couldn't put 2 days together, sober, unlovable and unloved, unemployable and unemployed, I wanted to kill myself. That's all I knew how to do, is try to attempt suicide. The only thing that makes sense to me is the hand of a loving God literally grabbed me and brought me to you guys and put me in the middle of the circle and triangle. And what you told me is that, Ali, if you situate yourself in the middle of the circle and triangle to the best of your ability, you will tap into a power so loving, so forgiving, that is going to literally take you from the scrap people life and put you in the most beautiful life. And that's what's happened for me. Most beautiful life today. Loving God, which I didn't believe in, really. Born in a country that used religion to kill people, to rape people, used religion to torture people. That's the kind of idea partially of God that I brought for you guys to deal with, you know? And the beautiful old timers wouldn't miss a beat. You guys have no access to God. I love that. You don't shoot your wounded. I love that. You just let me say whatever I needed to say, right? In my deluded thinking. And then you would ask me to sit down and grab a cup of coffee and come up with my own conception of God. Whether it's the soul of a loved one that's passed on or the energy of the universe, just come up with your own conception of God, you would say, you know? I destroyed my life with drinking. I'm just going to share a little bit. So if someone is new or newly back and you guys can relate, understand why I belong here, that you belong here too. I'll share a little bit about my drinking in a general way. I started drinking at the age of 16, and my huge world of potential, everyone always said I had potential about something, I don't know, ended up being this small, in a grungy motel room in Southeast Toronto, with bottles of vodka and needles in my arms and all the ugly extracurricular activity that follows that kind of lifestyle. Wanted to die every minute of the day and didn't know what to do with myself. Didn't know what to do with myself, man. I landed at your doorsteps, broken. When I landed here, I brought all the reasons why I think I'm an alcoholic with me. I'm an alcoholic because of the war zone that I came from and the family war zone that I lived in and the internal war zone that I suffer from. I'm an alcoholic because, right? And the beautiful old timers. What you would tell me is that, Ali, see, that drinking that you think you suffer from, that is your problem, that you can't stop drinking, and the reasons why, let me tell you something. See, that is just a fruit. That's like imagine if there's an apple tree and this apple tree has bad apples, gives bad fruit, right? And I just keep knocking the bad apples off the branches. And it keeps growing bad apples, keeps growing bad apples. You just keep trying to quit and stay quit. You just keep trying to change your girlfriend and change your geographical location. Get a degree. You think all that was going to save your alcoholism? See, it's not the bad fruit that's the problem. There's a root problem in this tree. The root is rotted. Your soul is diseased. You got a soul sickness, my friend. What it is a self-centeredness, you told me. And it's not that you think so highly of yourself, although you may think you're better than people at times. And it's not that you think so low of yourself, although you do play that victim role really well at times. Look what she did to me. She left me. He fired me. How dare they? They mistreat me. Denise is waving her hands. God bless you, Denise. I saw you. That's awesome. You relate, eh? Right? See, it's not that you think so highly of yourself necessarily, or you think so low of yourself necessarily. It's that you think often of yourself. Self-centeredness in every situation. It's always what's happening to me. What can I get out of it? How do I feel about the situation? Somebody passed away. I'm sad. I'm sad. How do I feel? Please don't misunderstand. I don't mean people passing away. Of course, my grandmother passed away. I loved her. I was sad and I should have been sad. But the degree to which I took it, instead of being there for other people, out drinking for months at a time. I fell in love with you guys when I first met you guys. The fact that I found my tribe, you guys drank like me, you never judged me, you felt like me, you thought like me, and some of you were sober and happy, you know what I mean? And I was in and out for 7 years, man, doing everything except the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Everything except the steps. You know, all the other things which are essential, absolutely as part of the program of recovery, like meetings and home group and fellowship is essential, but that's all I did. See, all those fingers point to something. They point to the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and these steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is a journey, which is the forward journey backwards. 12 steps are a forward journey, 1 through 12 backwards to childhood, to peace, to serenity, to innocence, emotional sobriety, not to be child childish but childlike. That's what these 12 steps are. They're a journey towards emotional sobriety for me. My last drunk wasn't as bad as the 50 before. I was renting a room in a men's recovery home. I was in AA for 4 months, a lot of meetings, 90 meetings in 90 days, and setting up chairs, fellowship, and no steps, right? Or dibble-dabbling what I thought I wanted to do in the steps, right? I went out for one night, drank, and came back in that room, passed out, and came to. Came to an incredible amount of pain, and I hit my bottom. I was surrendered. I was surrendered. I didn't surrender. I was surrendered. If I had the power to surrender, I would have done it 10 years ago. After that third suicide attempt, I was surrendered. And that bottom doesn't have to look external. I always look for that bottom externally. It's an internal bottom. It's an internal surrender. What it looked like is that I was tired. I was tired of me. I was tired of this life. God, can you help me? I'm tired. Once again, this beautiful light before the darkness, the light after the darkness, the dawn after the darkness. Caressed me, brought me back to you guys, put a new teacher in my path, opened the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with me, and this teacher helped me just go through a line by line. We followed the black on the white to the best of our ability. And I always feel like I have to say this, that I truly mean it, because there was a period of time where I was really asleep, okay? I used to think everyone has to do it a certain way. I was really asleep. And I feel ashamed in hindsight by being the way I was, by speaking the way I was. So I was doing the best I could. But today, let me tell you, when someone speaks from place of transformation, what happens is that I get excited about it, right? And sometimes there's a conviction in my voice, and because there's a conviction in my experience. But please don't ever take that or misconstrue that as you have to go through the book line by line. No, you don't. That's just what happened to me, okay? That's just what happened to me. Line by line, follow the black on the white. And as a result of these steps, I woke up. I was set on fire. The lights were turned on. In the hall, inside my heart, the lights were turned on. And I haven't stopped since then. Living a beautiful life, but not a perfect life. Once the drink was taken away, the only 100% promise in this program, I believe, the drink was taken away. It was taken away 100%. Haven't had a drink since then, right? Then my journey towards a deeper level of humility, kindness, and love, deeper experience with emotional sobriety started right there. That's when it started, you know? And I guess the best way to sort of demonstrate my growth or progression towards emotional sobriety is to just talk about different areas of my life where I failed abysmally at it through recovery. You know what I mean? One of them is with my dad. Okay, my father, my relationship with my father. I told you he used to hit us. The addiction, the violence, the yelling. Oh man, it was terror. It was just terrifying. As a kid, anyways, you know. I blamed them for years. I blamed them for years for every failure of my life. I hated them. Through these steps, through this program, I woke up. I became free. Him and I both became free, and we fell in love with each other. I made amends to that man. I woke up because I saw the demand I was putting on him, that he had to be perfect. He had to give me things that it was never given to him. He was kicked out of his home at the age of 14 or 12, whenever it was. He was molested as a kid. He was beaten by his father. He had to grow up a self-made man. He suffered from addiction. But in my self-centered illness, I don't see any of that. I don't care. All I want is for you to do for me. I want people in my life that just keeps coming up in my inventories. It's a theme. When I'm blocked, I want people in my life to be different than they are, to just magically rearrange and change who they are, their DNA, just so I can be comfortable. Drowning in self, right? Bondage of self. Isn't that insane? Like Bill was talking about, right? Demanding from others. This poor man didn't have none of that to give to me, but you know what he did give to me? He was a kind man too. At times he was kind when he wasn't sick. He always had my back financially. Imagine in the heights of addiction, with like I think sometimes that when in an addict's head, opiate addiction he has, right? Yeah. the insecurities. Like when I was active out there, the insecurities, the fear, never mind active, in here, in the program sometimes it comes at me. Not being good enough, fear, I'm gonna sound stupid, what do they think, right? All of that. You know what this man did at the age of 40? Picked up me, my sister, and my mom. Just brought us all the way across the ocean to a new land. He looked different than everybody else. Doesn't speak a word of English. Well-to-do man. Managing 200 people, making lots of money. Came to Canada, and for the first year, he was mopping the floor of the pizza joint, man. Because he didn't know what's going to happen with money. That's what I saw in these steps. I became free. I saw what love looks like. It's so simple to love by words when I feel like you're lovable. The difficult thing, that sick man showed me how to love with action. Put yourself in discomfort and fear the unknown for your family. That's love. That's love. And I started to see what I was doing in his life, in their life. The terror, the chaos, the blaming, the hitting, the stealing. Blaming him at the age of 35 for every single failure of my life. I made amends to him. We fell in love. And it hasn't always been easy, man. Sometimes Teresa says, she used to say, like, he stretches my spiritual muscles. Sometimes once in a while I react, man, and not nicely in the last few years. But I have a program that allows me to clean it up and come back and be reminded that he's not there to give me love. I'm there to give him love. The only way I can experience love and loving myself in this program is to give other people love. I tried loving myself. I tried going to the gym and getting big muscles and the girlfriend and the cars, and none of that stuff worked, man. It was outside in and it felt empty and hollow and shallow. This is an inside out job. The spiritual life, what does Bill Wilson say? Common sense becomes uncommon sense, right? It's uncommon sense to a self-centered person like me that in order for me to love me, I got to love you first with action. My dad showed me that, man. My dad showed me that. And a year and a bit ago, because of the love you pour into me, because of the guidance that you give me, because of this beautiful path and beautiful God that shines through me. I see it, I know it. It shines through all of us when we're on the beam. He started to become interested in you guys. He pulled me aside and I'm translating. He's like, son, Ali, I just wanted to tell you something. I know I'm not the easiest person to live with, and I feel like I'm losing my mind. Like he's at the beginning stages of Alzheimer's, poor guy. You know, to see a man of that stature, he's a man's man. You know, to just deteriorate before my eyes. I started to realize it. It's one thing when you're far gone, you don't know, but he's starting to see his mind going. That's terrifying for him. He pulls me aside and says, I know I'm not the easiest person to live with, and I can't remember things sometimes, and I think I'm losing my mind, but I want to thank you. Because when you're with me, I feel peace. Because you don't judge me. And I see that in you. I haven't been a good dad, but you've been a good son. Can you talk to me about this recovery thing that you guys are doing? Now, he didn't follow up with that in the meetings, but what a conversation, James. You know what I mean? He's one of my assignments in life, man. For me to grow in God consciousness, for me to experience a deeper level of emotional sobriety. You know, he's a gift from God. If God is everything, then everyone that comes in my life, if God is everything, if I'm trying that on, then everyone that comes in my life is a messenger. Whether they know it or not. Then everything that I experience in life is a message for me to be better. Just a little bit better today than I was yesterday. And I think that's the best I can hope for in Alcoholics Anonymous. Just a little bit better today than I was yesterday. You know what I mean? I don't need to be this thing perfection. Fumbling, stumbling, broken, doesn't matter. God will make you. Look what he did with Bill Wilson, man. Right? He does that with all of us in our own way. You know what I mean? Romance. That's another good area of romance. My entire life, I thought I was ugly. On the outside and on the inside. I don't know why, just whatever, man. Nobody ever wanted to be with me. I always had short-term relationships. In fact, I didn't even know how to love. My idea of love is you do for me. If you do for me, if you acknowledge me, if you love me, if you agree with me, then I love you. How I operated in relationships was that at about 3 months, I unpacked my crazy out of the suitcase. And then when the girl I was dating got scared of the chaos, right? Either she wanted to leave or I would threaten to leave, I would bluff to leave. It was just insane. It was just insane. And I'd be like, see, you don't know what love is. You don't love me. Because if you knew what love was, you would stay here and heal me. Selfish, self-centered. I drank people. I didn't have relationships with people. I drank people as medicine. User of people. That was me. Afti and I met early in recovery. My wife, Afti, she's a beautiful soul, man. She's a beautiful child of God. She is, outside and inside. And our relationship, man, sometimes I think the best way to describe it, how it used to be, was bipolar. Like, we lived at extremes. One extreme was love and happiness and joy, just in love with each other, man. Romantic love, though, that kind of human love, right? Later on, I understood I can't have that kind of love by itself, but I'll explain it to you. And then the other end was just chaos, fighting, yelling, throwing things, coming to meetings, talking about God, going home, punching picture frames. That was me. Clean house, trust God, help others. Keep making mistakes. For a period of time, waking up, trying to be a better husband, trying to be a better man. And then all of a sudden, the disease of alcoholism gets me. I feel like I'm not being treated right. I'm demanding of her to give me what she doesn't have to give me. You know, selfish relationship. We blow up. We have another fight. I feel like a fraud. It got to a point where now, I just want to make sure, like, I'm talking about the pitfalls of the fumbling in my marriage, but I have a beautiful marriage. Yeah, I don't want to shine that light on it, but just the progression of it, right? It got to a point where Ashley and I got separated. I was sure that she's the problem. She's cruel. She chases money too much. She's too demanding. I was separated for about a year. I rented a room in a house close to the house we own right now, because I wanted to be close to my son, right? And in that room, I found myself alone in the exact same state as I found myself the day of my last drink in that recovery room. And the 4 horsemen came for a visit again, just like they did in that time. And their hooves were really loud again. And they told me the exact same thing they told a few years back. You're a loser. Why don't you take your own life? It'd be better if you weren't here. This is sober response to people, okay? You're a loser. Why don't you take your own life? A drink would fix that. My knees got bent again, and a prayer came out of me. God, I know you now, but I don't understand what's happened in my life, because I seem to be doing the exact same thing, destruction in my life, sober, as I did when I was drunk. Can you help me? I'm tired of me. That's a beautiful prayer, by the way, drunk and sober. I'm tired of me, God. You know, one prayer. I called one of you guys. And this teacher, it's pointing me to some actions, like every teacher around me. And by the way, throughout this year that I was separated from AFSI, my sponsor, Butch, my friend, Teresa, I leaned on them so much. Every single time they would point me to God, they'll point me to some action, point me some inventory. I would wake up for a period of time and then fall asleep again, right? I don't know what happened. It was the accumulation of all these desires to take action, right? It landed on that day where I wrote a set of inventories. I read it to this old timer. And I just woke up, man. I just woke up. I finally saw that everything that I'm blaming AFSI for, I'm doing myself. I'm cruel. I'm mean. I'm taking advantage of her in my own way. I'm shallow in my own way. It's easy to accuse somebody of chasing money where they're the breadwinner of the house. Because I couldn't find a job to help support a family. She's doing that. She's taking that on. I'm accusing her of chasing money. Go figure. Right? I woke up, man. I woke up and I got detached from being married. What that means is that not that I didn't want, not the kind of detachment that I don't care. No, I did care, but I didn't need it to breathe anymore. I was okay. And I just wanted to love on her and co-parent with her. Love her as a human being. Forget about it. No wife, fine, divorce. It's okay. And my sponsor, Bush, with his help and other elders, I started to practice principles in a marriage that wasn't working. Go figure that, eh? Practice principles when I don't feel like it, right? Asking God to help me. And she started to see the transformations in me. And one thing led to another. COVID hit about 3 years ago, right? COVID hit. And you know, at the beginning of COVID, I don't know about you guys, but we thought we were going to die. We literally thought everyone's going to die soon, right? So after he said, we may not live too much longer. Why don't you move back home for the last little bit? So I moved back home and we fell in love, man. We fell in love deeper than ever, you know? And we woke up to something, both Afsi and I. Her and I don't have the privilege, don't have the dubious luxury. You know, the big book says we don't have the dubious luxury of the grouch or the brainstorm to hold resentments. Well, Afsi and I don't have the dubious luxury also of having a normal human romantic relationship with each other. Because I'm going to speak to myself, for myself. I'm way too selfish for that. I don't know what love is. What Afsi and I have to have, we woke up to this. We have to have a continuous spiritual experience together. What that means is that God has got to be in the middle of this, and God is everything, not this marriage everything. If I make this marriage everything, my complete unrealistic dependence on someone else to give me perfect love, perfect acknowledgement, I will destroy this marriage. I'm going to do it, not her, me. I'm responsible here. 100% responsibility. What are my mistakes? And I woke up, man, God is everything. I'm a better husband today. I try to be considerate and I'm kind, and we both are. Like, we fell in love. I don't know how to describe it except that we fell in love on a deeper level. You know what I mean? Finance. That's another area. My journey towards maybe a little bit deeper level of emotional sobriety and finance. I think that's another area that a lot of people, anyways, in Alcoholics Anonymous that I hear, that I talk to, it's challenging, right? I wasn't a big gangster and I wasn't a multimillionaire when I came here. I hear some of the stories of the people that I admire, some of them, right? Like they were big, rich businessmen, alcohol destroyed everything. They ended up on the streets and then they got sober and then they got everything back. That wasn't me. I had nothing right from the get-go. I had nothing, I built nothing. This disease got me fast, it got me early, you know? It was always difficult for me to support myself. Always. This disease got me fast. In recovery, in a marriage, because we got married, met each other, got married early on in recovery, right? Can't find a job to help support a family. I don't have to tell you of the noise that goes on in an alcoholic's head. The chaos, that you're a loser. How can you be a dad? How can you be a husband? You can't even support a family. Like, I would find jobs, but like $20 an hour, you can't even support yourself. Never mind support a family, you know? And I would watch God take me from job to job to job to job, just to show me what the real deal here is, right? I watch myself worshiping the rivers that come from source. I made a deal in the third step that, God, I'm going to stay close to you and I'm going to do your work well. I made a deal that I'm going to worship the ocean. And what I would do with jobs, I would start to worship the rivers, the little streams that come from the ocean. And when I start to worship the streams, like this job, that job, this job, it's like, what happens to me, I get scared that the stream is going to dry out. I forget that I got to see to it that my relationship with him is right and great things will come to pass. Not with that job, that he's the employer. I was working one time for a gentleman I was sponsoring, and he had a fence business, building fences, wooden fences around homes. I was a laborer for the summer, and I was using, like, we had to use clam shovels to dig the ground, the grass in the backyard, 3 or 4 feet to put the post of the fence in, you know? It was a hard summer, hard labor. It was a Friday. Man, I was pissed off. I was sad. I had tears in my eyes. I was cursing God. Come on, God. I'm tired of fighting with Ashley over the bills anymore. I don't want to fight with her over the bills anymore. I'm doing what I think you would have me. I'm trying to be a better person. Help me out here, God. You know? And all of a sudden I stop and I pause because you taught me. Negative emotion, negative thought, if it really grabs a hold of me, I pause, watch myself, and I pray. God, can you please remove the selfishness, the self-centeredness from me? Show me who would you have me be? What would you have me do, God? And all of a sudden I hear the voice of a 65-year-old man who is sitting beside me, who is a laborer just like me, working all summer with me. A well-to-do businessman who lost all his money due to a messy divorce, from what he told me, right? I say that prayer, I'm in tears, hating my life. God, please turn my attention to someone I could help. Help me, remove this from me. I hear his voice. Ali, can you help me? I've been wanting to kill myself the last 2 weeks and I can't stop drinking, man. I hear you don't drink anymore. How do you do it? And I open up my mouth and I start to tell him about how bad it was. The suicide attempts, I couldn't stay sober. And I started to tell him about you guys. I started to talk about you guys, Alcoholics Anonymous, what you've done for me, what a beautiful life I live today. And I had a shift in thinking and outlook. All of a sudden, all the have-tos of my life became get-tos, where I get to see that I get to come to work, I get to hustle, I get to work for $15, $20 an hour, I get to help one of God's kids, and I get to look for another job. I floated the rest of that summer in that job, man. You know? And God took me from job to job to job to job, and eventually I landed in my dream job. There's so many stories I could tell, but I'm with this, the finance thing. I do sales now for a company that sells doors and windows, high-end stuff, right? And I've never had a 100% sales job, right? So I love this job. I wake up in the morning like looking forward to going to this job, right? And all of a sudden, I find that I start to get fearful because a couple of the sales that I thought they're going to go through for sure, they didn't go through, right? All of a sudden, I'm fearful. All of a sudden, I find myself in the same state as I was when I was hustling with those clam shovels, man. And I got a dream job now. What's the deal here? What's the problem then? My outsides have gone better. What's the problem? Internal condition. Demand on circumstances and people to give me what I want, fulfill me perfectly, rather than God perfectly. I ended up, it was Sunday, 8 a.m. appointment at this lady's house to talk about a door, right? I sat I parked in the street before her driveway. I started to pray. I started to pray before appointments. God, can you please show me what my assignment is here? Can you please show me what I got to do? What do you want me to do here? I don't know if it's to make a sale, to talk about doors and windows. What do you want me to do? I give up, right? I go and I meet this lady and we start to a little bit talk about doors, and she started to tell me about her life. She started to tell me about the fact that she's a spiritual teacher and she's been helping people with mental health, part of spiritual organizations for decades. And then as she's talking, for some reason, I'm praying inside. I'm praying, God, what's my assignment here, God? And I'm listening to her. And then all of a sudden, the thought came, tell her. So I listened to that voice now, right? So I just told her, just very briefly. I said, I want to thank you for what you do. You know, for helping people with mental health issues, because I also have mental health issues. We need more people in this world, more people like you. I suffer from alcoholism. I've been sober now. I have a beautiful life because of people like you, because kindness like you know. This lady starts bawling. She starts crying uncontrollably. She's like, are you kidding me? Are you effing kidding me? You mean that's what God sent you here? Did God send you here today? You know, Ali, with all the spiritual experiences that I've had and with everything that I'm doing, my husband is an alcoholic. I can't keep him sober. I don't know what to do with the last 10 years. Can you help me? So I opened up my mouth and I told her about you guys. From that day to this, I have not had one time, fearful thoughts. Not one time have I sunk in the fear of what's going to happen to this sale. Not one time. Once again, God showed me. You want to get to know me? You get to know my kids. You made a deal with me. Your job is to help other people. I'll take care of the details of your life. Once again. You know? And bills have always been paid. They've always been paid. You know what I mean? Things are always okay. Emotional sobriety. Emotional sobriety. Depression. I'll share about depression a little bit because Bill Wilson had depression, right? I don't know. I think I heard a talk by maybe Sandy Beach. It was many years ago, or maybe it was Time. I can't remember who it was, but they talked about like depression and Alcoholics Anonymous being two general types of depression. One being like clinical depression that some people have, like actual hormonal stuff, right? And one being spiritual depression, that sense of separation from God, right? And so I don't know which one or how. I definitely know about the spiritual depression that I suffer from, but I don't know how much of that clinical depression I suffer from. But I can tell you that I had it since I was a kid. Ever since I was a kid. I don't know if in my little brain, because of all the trauma that I faced and I witnessed, I don't know if what my little brain, in order to deal with it, it was shut out. It was just, I want to go to sleep. I don't know if that was the case. It was a defense mechanism, whatever it was. It followed me into childhood. It followed me into drinking. It followed me into adulthood. It followed me into recovery, you know? I remember there was a time sponsoring people, and Darius, he's 8 years old now, my son Darius, he was 6 months old. And me and Ashley were fighting over the bills, you know what I mean? We're doing what we did around that time. And the depression got so bad, I couldn't get out of bed for a month. I remember one time I went down to the basement to just sleep because I didn't even want to be near my son. I knew I was in trouble because I attempted suicide so many times in the past, right? Not in recovery, but in the past. That I knew was coming because the thoughts started to come that wouldn't it be better if you weren't here. I didn't want to be around my 6-year-old son. My heartbeat, I don't be around him, you know what I mean? So I knew I was in trouble. So I prayed. And somehow I got the strength to get in the car and drive myself to the emergency room. Along the way, the whole time I'm praying, God, can you please use me? Can you please use me? Can you please help me? Can you please allow me to be of service to somebody? Because I don't know what to do. Because you gotta take care of this. This is too big for me, you know? Ended up in that emergency room. I saw a psych team and what a critical, whatever response, whatever they call it. I ended up going on some medication. Thank God I needed it at that time. Had a psychiatrist and a therapist. And the whole time I'm cleaning house, trusting God, helping others. Cleaning house, trusting God, helping others, right? We are not doctors in Alcoholics Anonymous. Seeking medical attention, medical help is not separate from this path. Alcoholics Anonymous and these 12 steps and the power of God is not a compartment in my life. God is everything. So actually living a spiritual life is seeking medical help when I need it, right? Because the direction came through continuously working these steps that maybe you got to open your mind to some medication, right? And the medication worked incredibly for me for a little while. And all of a sudden it started to feel like a prison. It started to go backwards. We changed medication. We did, and I was just dying. With the help of my doctor, we slowly came off of the pills. I dove deeper into this path. Continuously clean house, trust God, and help others. And God once again continuously showed me because I asked them, use me, please. That's the one thing I know. That's the only way for me to get out of me. Use me. I need to be of service. I need to have purpose in my life, or else I'm going to die. It's not a path of happiness. It's a path of purpose. And God started to put men in my path that suffer from depression. Sponsees in my path. I started to share with them. Continuously clean house, trust God, help others. I would share with them what I'm going through. I would share with them what the light is doing, what God is doing, what spiritual principles are doing. And we both would come out of depression for a little bit for that day. You know what I mean? And I started to slowly wake up to the fact that why not? Why not me? Why not me? Half of the problem with the depression was me making it wrong. It shouldn't be. Why shouldn't it be? Because I'm still demanding my situation to be different for me. I'm arguing with reality. One of the biggest bondages of self that I suffer from, I argue with reality. That's a spiritual life is accepting reality. And in the calamities of life, seeking God, seeking God's will, you know? And ever so slowly, depression started to go away and it started to transform. You know, once in a while, it still comes for a visit, once in a while. But see, I don't have depression. It comes for a visit. And just like that Rumi poem, The Guest House, by the way, if you haven't read it, read it. Google Rumi Guest House, beautiful poem, right? When the depression comes for a visit, what it does is cleans my house for debris that it shouldn't be there. It brings a new light. It's a message from beyond, from the beyond, when I use it with the motive to be of service to someone else. You know what I mean? Man, the last few years, I'll end with this. All I've been doing to the best of my ability is clean house, trust God, help others. That's all I've been doing. With a lot of mistakes, man. I've stepped back and I've been watching God do for me what I can't do for myself. I was penniless, homeless, carless, jobless. I have all those things. Not too much of it, just enough. You know, just enough for me. I have all those things. But those things that you could buy, they don't keep anybody sober, because I know a lot of rich people in Alcoholics Anonymous dying. Okay? You know what's priceless in my life? Some of the priceless gifts in my life? We're Ashley and I coming up to 10 years of marriage. A woman that loves me for me, broken and all. The first person that I was in romantic relationships that I was able to just be honest with, this robe in front of her and say, look, this is it. Right? About 12 years ago, 13 years ago was my last suicide attempt. And about 8 years ago, God's like, here you go, you selfish prick. He's one of my other kids. You take care of one of my kids. Get out of yourself. He gave us our baby boy. He gave us Darius. And Darius is the best thing in my life, man. He's the best thing. He's one of my best spiritual teachers. He's in them now. He's always jumping for joy and laughing and, just mesmerized by the magnificence of this present moment. And I learn from him. I learn from him. And I'm such a good dad, too. I love him, and we laugh, and I tell him that he's handsome and he's smart. He can be anything you want, baby. Some kids were picking on him, I think, because he's such a gentle soul, you know what I mean? He's so gentle. We put him in martial arts. He needs to defend himself when he needs to defend himself. He's such a gentle soul. Some kids were picking on him one time, and he came home and told me about it. And I said, baby, all you got to do, listen to me. Daddy's got your back. Don't you worry about it. If you need to defend yourself, you defend yourself. But you go tell the teacher, you walk away, and you be kind. Okay? If someone picks on you, you go tell the teacher, and then you go be kind to someone else. That's all you need to do, eh? You need to pray and be kind. And Daddy's got your back. Don't you worry about it. I pour the same love you pour into me, into my son. That's why I'm a good dad, because of you. Because of you, not because of me. You know what I mean? Because of you. I'm happy most of the time anyways, not all the time, most of the time, right? I don't suffer from debilitating fear anymore most of the time, However, none of those gifts that are priceless could keep me sober either, nor do they have a big impact on my level of emotional sobriety. They don't. You know what has had a big impact on my level of emotional sobriety? All the valleys in life, everything that I told you guys about, the depressions, I couldn't find a job, and the suicide attempts, those things, the separation. Because all those valleys in life, what they've done for me is brought me back to the table with God for a deeper level of experience, the deeper level of surrender of my ideas, deeper level of surrender of the demand of others to give me perfection. How dare I? How dare I demand someone else to be God? I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm not. All those, because of this beautiful path, all those, I've experienced and I continue to experience transformations in my life, man. This is not a program of change. I'm just speaking from my opinion, okay? So please, not this, I just didn't become a better Ali. I was transformed. I continue to be transformed. Like a caterpillar doesn't turn into a better looking caterpillar. The caterpillar goes into a cocoon of darkness, right? And then turns into a butterfly. Transformation. Because of this path, all those darknesses, all those valleys in life that seem like the darkness of the tomb, they end up being the darkness of the womb, where I get to be reborn. Shed all the skin, all the old beliefs. Smash it with an axe, Rumi says, and be present to love. You know what I mean? So they serve a purpose. My emotional sobriety is dependent on the pain. It's dependent on my fumbling and stumbling. Bill Wilson said it. Pain is a beautiful touchstone for spiritual growth. I want to thank you for your listening, for your kindness. I was really nervous. I still am. I don't know, whatever that was, right? But I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to be here and share some of my experiences with you. I know that this article is about from a point of view of a long timer. Bill Wilson wrote it for a long timer, right? But I believe God uses all of us in the way he uses all of us, and God doesn't wear watches. There's no time in the realm of the spirit. Right? There's no time in the realm of the spirit. If you're new, if you're newly back, Philippe, it's good to see you, brother. 6 days is a beautiful thing, man. I want to say something to you, my friend. If you're new like Philippe here, this is not a not drinking program. This is a love story. If you're tired of being you, I want to ask you to consider, get a home group, get a sponsor, and dive in these steps and experience what we're talking about on your way to a deeper level of emotional sobriety. God bless you guys. Thank you so much.
Ali, that was wonderful. As always, you always have a very powerful message, and you speak from your experiences. It doesn't feel like I'm listening to an intellectual rap. I'm talking about real life situations, how the program applies. We're at that point now where I believe you get to call on people in the Hollywood squares if you want. And so if there's anyone you would like to hear from, it's your turn to ask.
Thank you, brother. Would it be, sorry, I'm just gonna hold on one second. Okay, there we go. Would it be okay if someone else picks and I just listen? Is that okay?
Excuse me?
Would it be okay if someone else picks who speaks?
Oh, I could pick.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you.
I could pick, or we can go to a show of hands. I just want to add something that, you know, life's lived forward, but understood looking backwards, you know, when after you go through it. And something you said about when you help that fellow and also that person in psychotherapy, which was a psychotherapist, and you just, you know, broke your anonymity and just asked God, like, what can I do? And stop thinking about myself. There was a period in my life, this was a memory that came back when you were sharing, where I had an undiagnosed small stroke, a TIA. And I now realize that I was to blame for it. I wasn't accepting reality. My job had changed, and they wanted to put me in a position that I didn't want to go into. They want to put me in a unit to supervise frontline workers at a tow pound. And I knew it was a mess down there. It was understaffed and there was a lot of problems, and I resisted. And because I was working for the police department, you don't say no to the police department. They started putting the screws to me. And all that stress caused me to have this stroke, this small stroke. And make a long story short, I was under, they thought that they didn't know I had a physical problem, a stroke. They were treating me for a psychological problem. They were giving me all these pills that were making me worse, until the point that I wanted to commit suicide. And this is the story that you reminded me of. I wanted to commit suicide. I had to go into a 48-hour lockup, you know, because when you say you're going to commit, you know, kill yourself, they lock you up under observation. And the floor that I was in, there was a guy they called the Wolf Man. I mean, he had a beard down to here, his hair was out to here, and when you talk to him, he just kind of grunted. And they put me in the room with him. You know, it was two beds to a room, and I'm sharing the room with the Wolf Man. And I would talk to him. I just would talk to him. And by the end of I don't know what I said, but I know by the end of the 48 hours on the morning they were discharging me, he came out of the room and he had shaved and cut his hair. Kind of like joined back with the group, you know, so you never know, you know, who you're going to help and when and why, you know, just another one of God's kids, you know, it's just showing in some compassion and some love and some kindness, you know. Anyhow, show of hands. Okay, we got Nikki with her hands up.
Hi, everyone. Nikki, alcoholic. Ali, thank you so much for sharing with us. This is the first time I've heard you, and it was beautiful. You really restored me in my sobriety. I feel it restored hope with some of my relationships. One of the things that came out of my sobriety, a lot of growth and a lot of beauty, but it really exposed a broken relationship with my mom that I didn't realize that I had. And I judge her right now. I judge her. I never judged her before, but in my sobriety, I judged her. I judge, and I'm stuck on trying to change her. And I'm constantly going to the sick man's prayer, and I'm constantly going to acceptance. And, it brought tears to my eyes what you said, that your dad said he feels peace because you don't judge him. And I need to not judge my mom. And I just really appreciate hearing that from you, because I need to not be judging. That's not what my sobriety is about. And there was just so much that you said that just really restored my hope, and that my journey is I still have a lot to do here. It's not there's no end result. It's all a journey and growth. And you just gave me, I don't even know how to say, just definitely renewed, because I have that perfectionist in me that thinks I'm not doing it right. I have good days and bad days, and hearing from someone with more time tell me that it can be ugly and beautiful and ugly and beautiful again, it really inspires me. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Nikki. Belinda, I believe you're next.
Yeah, thanks. Ollie, that was awesome. And such a used word, but just connected in so many ways. It's so weird that you connect with somebody. And I mean, this program is just amazing. But so God, I can't do it fast. I had a head injury. And so that's why it takes me so long to put my words together. So I definitely related with your dad. So, well, not exactly, but anyway, these things, after my husband died, I did okay for about a year. I mean, I grieved and did all that stuff, but not like I held it together, and I didn't hold it together. People held me together. My friends in AA held me together, and he held me together. But it was weird because I just got back from Florida last night, and I went for my niece's baby shower. And I'm a beach person, and I would it would be like I could live on the beach, but I hardly went because I actually helped. And I thought that was so weird, that I did that. And so did other people. Like, did you have a great time at the beach? Well, I really didn't go because we were doing this baby shower, and we were trying to clean her house, and I got back. And then on the flight, then I watched, because I just moved to New Jersey, because I was just following. I didn't know what to do, I knew I was not spiritually connected. I kept saying, I don't know how to I don't know how to get there. And you just said what I need to do, and I knew what I need to do, but I just didn't feel like I could offer anybody anything because I was so broken. I just felt so broken. And then I got up here, and then I'm like, I don't have my fellowship. I don't have, God, I'm too afraid to just walk on the street and go, I don't know. And I need to go to meetings, all stuff. But anyway, so I watched this this movie called The Many Saints of Newark, because since I moved to New Jersey, I don't know what I thought I'd get out of that. But in there, the guy that's having all this trouble, he goes to his uncle in prison, and his uncle said, your suffering is caused by your wanting. He says it's all caused by what you want. what you think you want. It's all caused by your desire. You need to quit wanting. And then I came home and I don't know how I ended up there, but I was watching this funeral service that was on Zoom of somebody that died this summer that I haven't seen in 15 years. And I don't know why I watched it. And she was a minister and of a church that I went to that I wouldn't want to go back. But because, I thought they were all hypocrites, but you know how it is. But they read this poem, and the poem was about, I was in, it goes on like, I was in the depths of despair and hopelessness, and I didn't want to live, and he held me. And it just went on like that. It would give all these, or I was filled with joy and warmth and blah, 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 blah. And he held me. It was all repetitive, and he held me. And I was like, that's where I've lost, I've lost that trust. And, in all the times anything that's ever happened, even after I couldn't work anymore after the accident, all the bills were paid. I go to the, when I thought all our savings are gone now, I go, and some uncle that I hadn't, great uncle that I hadn't met, there was a check when he died, and I think I'd met him once in my life, and there was this check that took care of it, Anyway, and then you're on and you're telling what the answer is. I mean, I'm so hard-headed, except, well, not really. Thank you. He'll get beaten into me someday.
Kyle, I believe you're up.
Oh, thank you. Ali, I just wanted to say thank you so much. I needed to hear every single word of your story there. When you started talking about your father, I just broke down. And the spirit just it just flew through me, and I had like an epiphany about my father because of you. And it is so hard for me not to let this man bother me. Almost everything he says gets to me, right? But what you said, it's about me, it's about how I feel, right? And I realized that I have to change the way that I think about this. And I'm so blessed to be here with all of you, and just to hear all of that. And I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I just felt something change in me, and it's because of you. So thank you.
Ali, you could also respond if you'd like to. We allow crosstalk. You're okay? All right. Nancy, you're up.
I am Nancy. I'm an alcoholic. And Ali, it was so exciting to see you here. I love it twice in 1 week. That's pretty good. And Ali and I go to a meeting that I started to go to at the beginning of the pandemic, and has completely changed my experience of the pandemic, which I just realized sounds like I knew what the pandemic was going to be like, but it like rebuilt my spiritual life. And I'm so touched, and I'm so moved. I never got to hear you speak before. And I don't know that I have the words, but so, one of the things that the preamble says, how are we approaching expanding our spiritual life? So one of the things that I've been doing meditation for 15 years. And then I'd hear people say, you know, but the meditation that they're talking about in the big book isn't like the Easter meditation that I do, although I think it's wonderful. But it was more about like inviting God into my day, you know, and you gave me words and phrases that allow me to do that. So I've been practicing. It started out as sort of two-way prayer from somebody else that I heard at the on Tuesday night, and it's kind of evolved into just more trying to share my day with God and say, what do you want me to do? And it always feels awkward when I write about it, like, okay, do you want me to go to the store? Do you not want me to go to the store? But I just love that. Use me, you know, direct me. Where can I be? What do you need me to do? It kind of opened that up for me. And I'm just very touched. I could go on and I won't. So I'm so glad. I love seeing you on a Thursday night. It was very exciting. So thank you.
Well, there's no more hands, and the usual suspects aren't here tonight because, oh, we got Dawn. Okay. Go take it.
Hi there. Hi, Joe. Ollie, thank you so much for sharing. I didn't want to say too much because, you know, I have a pretty good time to talk here, but I was listening to you and I've been going through my own process over the course of the past couple weeks where I was by circumstance of going through a workshop looking at a lot of my, you know, real early informative traumas. And it really, for a moment, it toppled me a little bit, you know, like, and I like what Belinda said, you know, that I lost track of where my strength lies because I'm judging my experience as not sufficient for the life I should have had. And it doesn't, and I am alcoholic. Like I'm like an alcoholic. This is not a good place for me to be. And so fortunately I have good people around me to put me where I need to be and that I can call and say, you know, I'm not doing all right. And I love what you said about, you know, I'm broken. And I also love it's the, you know, when you talked about emotional sobriety being working the steps and the humility and, you know, the combination of those things that get you there. I had and continue to fall prey to the belief that I'm going to do this once and it'll be a one and done deal and I'll be good. And then we're all going to live happily ever after. And I'm going to help everybody and I'm going to play nice in the schoolyard. I have news. This has not yet happened. But I have times when I am absolutely at perfect peace and ease, which is for an alcoholic is absolutely remarkable. But one of the things that so this morning when I was railing and asking my sponsor, you know, why, and you know, why? It's just, it's not right. And if you look at it on paper, it's not right. And I said, it's a confusing element when you have good people, like your parents, you know, you have a situation, they're good people, but they're also not. It's both. And, you know, dualistic mind, alcoholic ego does not like both. It wants one answer, and mine, when I'm in a bad place, wants somebody to pay for this shit. So, so anyway, and when I can't get somebody to pay for it, which it talks about in our reading, I need a drink. I need a drink because there's no justice in the world. Anyway, I'm railing this morning right after my meditation, at which point I got a very, very strong nudge to call my sponsor. And she said, I said, why is this like this? She said, Dawn, they had no God. They had no God. And I went, oh. Now, I've had times in my recovery when people have come in and just bam, hit me with the obvious. Just hit me with the obvious. And she hit me with the obvious today. That those people, just like me, were not given God. And because I was crushed by the self-imposed crisis of alcoholism, y'all gave me God. And I don't live like that anymore. And what I love about the thing that you said about working the steps is the component that can get me to humility is, you know, the 10th step is by nature to clear me out, get me out of the way. 10th step is to get me out of the way so that the 11th step can be a part of my experience. But it's not for me. It's so that I can do step 12. And if I cannot demonstrate it with my family, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. I'm not doing what y'all, I did not understand the assignment. And it says a much more important demonstration in our home occupation and affairs. And I'm really good with y'all, but what am I doing in my home's occupations and affairs? And right now, my mother came home to roost and she's one of my affairs. And I'm like, okay, you know, like, okay, let me scratch my head. But I loved what you said, that like we made you a father. We made you a husband. We made you a son. And the same thing happened to me. Y'all have made me a person that has anything to offer. And I completely would throw it all back just to be the self-centered person at times. But then, you know, like you said, I get surrendered. And I got surrendered this morning when my sponsor said, Dawn, they had no God. Oh, shit. And anyway, thank you.
Elizabeth?
Hey, Elizabeth Alcoholic. Oh my God, Dawn, first of all, I need to call you. I was gonna ask you. Oh God, I always learn so much from you. Thank you so much. So I was gonna ask you, yeah, I'm sorry, Dawn really threw me for a loop there. Sorry. You're in some ways you were like inside my head a couple times and it kind of freaked me out. I feel like I've been going through all the motions that I'm supposed to go through to be a good servant of AA and everything that we're taught to do. And yet there's a part of me that still like really wants this answer in this part of my life. Damn it. Give it to me now. And like, I finally kind of had a meltdown today. I feel like I've been holding my breath. And I just wonder, do you ever have days where, you know, you're doing that, you're doing everything you're supposed to do, but there's still a part of you that's just really, I don't know, like, what do? Do you have those days where you feel like part of you is just like, why isn't this working the way I want? And it won't, like, I do everything that I feel like I'm supposed to do here. And yet, I mean, I almost feel like I'm trying to like self-will myself into spirituality, which is such a messed up thing to even say, but it's even more messed up to feel it, you know? I have been walking around mad at God all day today. Just like, you know, and I told people, you know, I love to talk about the third step and I'm trying to like continually pray and tell God to take this from me. And yet, you know, and then this wonderfully wise old man at our newcomers group said, you know, the thing that I also sometimes say to people, if you're having trouble with a step, go back to the one before it, you know, and he was talking about step 2. You have days like that. And if you do, what do you do? Where you feel like you're doing everything, you know, and it's still just this thing. I don't know. I'm just really stuck today or something.
Was that for me or for Dawn?
For you.
Oh, for me. Okay. Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the entire, all my experiences in this talk were about that. Those days, they don't come as often and they're not as intense and they don't last as long as they did yesterday, or the metaphoric yesterday, you know what I mean? But so I'll tell you this, so something shifted in me. I don't know when it happened, a few years ago. And it keeps getting deeper and deeper, where life stopped happening to me. This doesn't happen to me anymore, you know what I mean? It just started to happen for me, you know? And that doesn't mean I don't get stressed, I don't have fear. I know, of course, are you kidding me? It's the human condition, man. But when I started to really, really just awaken to it, that the only role I have in this life is to be a servant, and that's it. And God is everything. So when anything happens in life that I don't like, and things are going to happen that are going to make me sad, and make me angry, make me fearful, my only role is to ask God to help me be useful. And I could be pissed off at God. You know what I mean? Life happens for me. Everything happens for me. For me to grow in God consciousness, as Don was saying, in order to practice the 12 step. I believe that's the sense, that's the purpose we were given in this life. I mean, why? I've thought about this often. I've contemplated, like, what makes this path of ours so different than every other spiritual religious path in such a way that we can digest, that keeps people like us sober and together and happy? How is it? Because this path is really an accumulation of, Bill Wilson didn't just come up with this. It's thousands of years of spiritual messages through all kinds of different paths just came through in this big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? What makes it so different? What I believe it is two things. And I got to be present to those two things because life's happening for me, right? The first thing is the first half of the first step. That's unique. That doesn't exist any other path. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol. There's no other path that to this day has described that I have a physical allergy and a mental obsession, I'm powerless, right? The unmanageability of life, that our lives have become unmanageable. Many people have described that, right? The ego, Rumi talks about that, right? The wanting to manage life, right? But that piece, the first half of the first step and the first half of the 12th step is what gives my life meaning and purpose. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, I try, not do it perfectly, I try. My life becomes about trying to help other people, other alcoholics in every situation in life, right? Try to pass this message on to other alcoholics and to practice principles in my affairs. Almost every other religious spiritual path has practice principles in my affairs. Walk godly, be kind to people, right? But those two things are unique to this path of the 12 steps of alcohol, I believe, right? And those two things are like the ends of the buckle in this seatbelt of the steps, right? If this ride of life is a roller coaster ride, going up and down, I fall off and I drink. When I work this program in such a way that my only purpose is to help another alcoholic, it's like that buckle, my 12th step, buckles into someone else's first step, and I stay in this path. It gives me a sense of purpose, right? So I believe so long as I'm present to the fact that I'm an alcoholic, and I have one purpose to help another alcoholic and practice principles in my affairs, obviously, right? I seem to keep growing in God consciousness and growing to the fact that this life is happening for me and not to me. That was a really long ass answer. I hope it helped, but that's what came to me.
Did. It did.
Ollie, that was wonderful.
Thank you.
This is the portion that we go into our inner room and we say a prayer or meditate, and then we will then thank the speaker. So